All right. Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. I have to apologize for this podcast starting late tonight due to I've been bombarded with guest references left and right for the past 2 hours. I couldn't even relax. And I'm just getting over everything now. And also, I do want to thank our guest for his patience. And please do continue to help the victims of the Texas floods and the California wildfires. They do still need our help, of course. And before I introduce our guest, I have a somewhat major announcement to start. As of possibly this podcast, and if all goes well, this podcast will be on the radio possibly soon in Chicago, Atlanta, Boston, Seattle, and San Bernardino, California. So more details to follow on that. I'm very happy about that. I haven't even finished up that part, and I wanted to get that done right away today, and I haven't had the chance. So tonight, our guest is Brad Glantz. He's a life coach, Jersey guy like I am. And Brad, thank you so much again for your patience, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thanks so much for hosting me, Joey. I'm super excited to have this conversation.
Okay, so explain to yourself more. I like I said, I've been so busy, I didn't even get to the, I couldn't even get to the, the little description on you. So I'm going to let you describe yourself.
So yeah, sure. Absolutely. So I do self-development coaching primarily for men. So essentially our goal is to help you reach the best version of yourself. I've helped over 80 men transform their lives so far. I do a ton of content on YouTube, whether it's in self-improvement, improving your relationships, advancing spiritually, really bridging the gaps between all the different areas of your life and leveling yourself up in whatever capacity it means for you. My job is to help you get there. And we do a lot of group work. So we got a group of guys where we have over 50 guys in there doing the work, giving each other different perspectives, helping each other level up every single day. We have multiple group calls a week. And essentially, I work with guys who are 18 all the way into their 40s and 50s. Mm-hmm. And it's been an absolutely exceptional journey so far. I've been doing this for about a year and a half, and content for about 3 years. And I was able to getting in this line of work was because I was diagnosed with depression when I was 13, overcame it by 16 through a lot of the tactics that I share within my coaching practice and a lot of the internal work we do with the guys that I work with extensively. And that's a little bit about me and how I got into this.
Okay. Actually, I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression in 2009, and I'm still dealing with it at 54.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, but it's more, mine's more compounded because when I was younger, I was, picked on and all that built up, and to the point where now it's like I wanted to push people. I'm at the point where I was going to push people away. So, but absolutely. I've been blessed over the past couple of weeks to break free slowly of it. I mean, I'm still my own worst enemy, and as soon as I make a mistake, I'm going to be right back to square one and wanting to, push people away. But right now, I'm just been happy breaking free and going into, like I just said, in reference to this podcast going on the radio. I mean, this has been a major accomplishment. So, I mean, I would not expect it. And even, like I said, folks, even as we're talking and doing these podcasts live right now, I am still getting podcast guest requests right now, left and right. So this person's got to wait till afterwards. I ain't interrupting anymore. So let's go into a mindset, Brad, in reference to something like mine. Like where I'm at right now, where I'm still realizing I still have, of course, still have problems, but, just trying to get the mindset and wanting to keep blocking that self-isolation away. So what kind of let me ask your permission first as well in reference to picking your brain for this, if that's okay with you in reference to this.
I'm an open book. Any question that you have, any topic you want to dive into, no matter how dark it is, I'm for it.
Okay. All right. So in reference to this, like I said, I still have the emotional mood swings right now as well. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, mainly what I'm trying to do now is I just started going to church recently for the first time since 2009. And so that's been helping. I've been starting to call that my therapy session, because I've gone to regular therapists and even the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist turned around and told me that this podcast was actually my therapy. And I looked at him and I was like, huh? What? You're kidding me, but not realizing until as the time has gone on that he was right. So, like I said, right now I still have the mood swings where where I want to push people away, but I've been calling them setbacks now instead of mood swings. And right now the only time I really have that little emotional time is like if I'm out and I see couples holding hands, I just get upset because there's no one in my life that I can spend it with.
Mm-hmm.
So in reference to something like that and the journey I'm going on, how can I, or what kind of what type of mindset should I look at or work on to get to where I shouldn't think, where I don't even think or even feel the emotional mood swings?
It's a good question. So, well, I mean, you threw a lot of details at me, which I really appreciate. It's really important to break all them down. It's hard to give a one-size-fits-all answer, but to just break into it a little bit. I mean, in terms of mood shifts and emotional swings, those aren't things that are ever going to go away. Not because of the anxiety and depression, but because of our nature as human beings. We'll always fixate on things to a certain degree. We'll always have a certain level of anxiety. These are normal emotional experiences to have. Now, when you start to fixate on them in a level where it's kind of taking your life away, that's when, of course, the clinical diagnosis come into play and the psychologists and the therapy and stuff like that, when it gets potent and it won't go away. And it's that all the time, nonstop. Now, one of the things I like to do and kind of introduce for a lot of people is something that's very uncomfortable for a lot of us, which is that analyze, instead of thinking about, because the original things that you provided were the same things that happened to me. I was bullied when I was younger, never felt like I was connected to anyone, always felt like I was different, always felt like I was the outcast. I reviewed the world differently, so on and so forth. So these were all things that impacted my life and got me into a depressed state. Now, that's what got me there. What kept me there was myself.
Right.
And it wasn't until I realized that it was the same things that get you to a certain place aren't the same things that keep you there. At a certain point, they become programs in your mind, philosophies that you create for yourself around the world. And because of I was bullied, because I was so on and so forth, there's a certain external and internal validation that we receive from ourselves in convincing ourselves that it's everybody else's fault in the way that we're at where we are now. It might have not necessarily been our fault that we got into a state of anxiety or depression, but when it goes on for years upon years, there's a lot of things that we're doing to not allow ourselves to be free of that. So one of the things is that looking at which areas of my life are unstable and where am I not grounded? Where is there no foundational pillar and basis for my life? Three big pillars: purpose, passion, and play. Now, the play aspect is something that everybody always disregards, because play, what am I, a child? When am I 5 years old? The answer to that question is actually yes. Every single human being on this planet, no matter what age you actually are, no matter what body you're in, you are still your child self. So I'll break that down a little bit.
Right.
Essentially, all of the programming that you've been instilled when you were a kid, when you were 5, when you were 10, when you were 15, all of that affects your worldview, your perception of yourself, how everything operates. And we often create these as foundational pillars for ourselves, and we then can't let go of whatever we've convinced ourselves is the truth about reality or the truth about my life. And so there's probably a lot of mindsets and thoughts that you may have for yourself, convincing yourself of why you can't be better, why you can't overcome depression, why you can't overcome anxiety. For a lot of us, it's oftentimes we get ourselves locked into a state of consciousness and we identify with it. So what did I do when I was diagnosed with depression? What did I tell people? I am depressed. When you associate yourself to something like this, you attach yourself to it. And when you attach yourself to an idea or a concept or a state of being, that becomes a part of your ego, of who you are. We, as human beings, we don't like change. Now, sometimes change leads to evolution, but we like staying the same. And if we've convinced ourselves that I am depressed, then that's become a part of you. And if you were to let go of being depressed, that would mean that you are no longer you, but you still want to be Joey, so you're not going to do that. So your mind subconsciously blocks out all of the potentials and opportunities that might be right in front of you to get yourself to overcome these things. Now, it's a long process, and there's so many things, especially since for someone who's been dealing with it for so long, there's so many different aspects and little niche intricacies of why this is still present. But the play aspect is making sure that life is structured to a certain degree, but flowing also to a certain degree in which you don't feel trapped. Because everyone's complaining, I feel trapped in my job, I feel trapped at this, I feel trapped in my relationship. And what do people do nowadays? What's the alternative? I feel trapped in the 9 to 5, so I'm going to go start a business. Not understanding that when you start a business, you're not working 9 to 5 anymore. You're working 9 to 10 p.m. or more. And so it's like you're putting yourself in another cage. So you have to choose what cage you're putting yourself in. Now, the problem is the reality is it's not a cage if you have purpose and passion and play aligned with it, right? The work becomes play. It doesn't become, because we've all been convinced and bought and sold that work has to be difficult. It has to be challenging. You have to work hard. No, work becomes easy when you flow with it, when you act like a child. So when everybody tells you, stop acting like a child, you're being a little bit childish, you made that joke, whatever the case is, those are the people that are even more depressed than you are, because they can't fathom somebody who has a viewpoint or a perspective or a reality outside of the one that they're experiencing. So they feel intimidated because you have more of a free soul than them. The purpose and the passion part comes into work that we're doing. So again, what your therapist said is the podcast is therapeutic. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's like there's a lot of for the work that I do, it is not therapy, but it is therapeutic. I got that from a coach named Dave Robinson. And so essentially the components of this is analyzing what do I feel like ignites a fire within my soul. I'm not talking about I kind of enjoy doing this, it's kind of fun, I enjoy it, but no, this gets me up in the morning. It keeps me going all the time, no matter what. These are the components that we really want to soak into. And when you find those things and when you really incorporate them, they're very important. But it's not just a one thing that you do, right? It's not like, okay, I found my purpose, found my passion, that's it, no more challenges. Even though I've found my purpose, passion, and play in my life, there's still so many challenges. Even though I found a relationship partner that is incredibly beautiful and right for me, and we're aligned with each other's souls, my life isn't perfect by any means. Is it better than a lot of other people's? For sure. But there's so much internal work, insecurities I'm overcoming, work I'm doing all the time on myself that then feeds into the work I do as well. So it's a never-ending journey. And a lot of the times depression soaks in when you analyze where you're at now and how you don't believe it's possible to be somebody else. Right. And the reality of the situation is always possible. A lot of us believe that once we're diagnosed with something like depression or anxiety, I'm not a medical doctor, but everybody believes that when you're diagnosed with depression or anxiety, I was diagnosed with it and I have it for the rest of my life. Too bad. I guess I'm just going to deal with this. I'm here to say for a lot of people, it doesn't have to be that way. It wasn't like that. I was convincing myself, and people convinced me that it was like that when I was diagnosed with it. And then 3 years later, once I started to actually, so here's the thing. Notice the lifestyle that you have, what you do in the morning, when you wake up, what you're spending your time doing. Do you align with it? Are you building things? Are you getting out of your comfort zone? If these things aren't happening, of course you're depressed. Of course you're not happy, right? And also allowing other people's perspectives to sway you in different directions. So it's really about aligning with your soul. What is it that aligns you and is that fire? And understanding that there's many challenges that come along once you find that. Because when I started coaching, it was very difficult to get people to even reach people and have conversation with them for even grow my business. It was difficult for me to get myself out of my comfort zone and present things in a certain way or explore certain concepts or get myself to say something on camera that I would have never said before. And it's about a lot of the times knowing what you need to do and just doing it. So whether it's improving your physical health, mental health, spiritual health, all of these things need to be combined. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think once they do one, my life is settled. Once I get in the gym and I lose a little bit of weight or I gain a little bit of muscle, then my life is great. Or some people think, well, if I improve this little mindset, then okay, my life is perfect. Or because I'm now aligning with God a little bit more, everything's perfect. A lot of us can use these self-development things as actual coping mechanisms. So what that looks like is we have a very big gym culture nowadays. So everyone's getting in the gym now, which is a good thing. But we use it as a substitute for actually interacting with the reason as to why we're angry or we're depressed or we're upset or our life is unsatisfying. And so it simply becomes another way in which we improve our physical health, but our mental health stays exactly the same or it gets worse. Because, I mean, I wouldn't want to be the guy who spends 4 days, or not 4 days, but 4 hours in the gym every single day because he feels so deeply insecure and he feels like he can't attract any women in his life. He feels like he has very low self-esteem, and that's why he's doing it. Now, of course, he's never going to admit to anybody as to why he's doing it like that, right? Because he's just going to say, well, I'm doing it because I want to focus on self-development. I want to improve things in my life. I like building my body. Now, again, most people who go to the gym are doing this, and that is a part of the process of these people too. But if your foundational pillar, so here's the most important component: grow out of love, not out of fear. Grow out of, I want to create the best version of myself, and this is possible for my life, as opposed to, I want to change myself because I hate myself and because I'm not good enough right now, because I haven't been good enough for the last 30 years of my life. It's instead, I've experienced what I've experienced. I cannot go back in time in any way, shape, or form. What are the steps that I can take today, tomorrow, and the day after that? The smallest possible ones, in fact, not the big one. To get myself just a little bit better and feeling a little bit more on top of the world every single day. Like I feel like I have more grasp over me, who I am, and I'm more connected. And if you can identify what those things are and actually commit to the process, that's what it is. Because depression is the enemy of commitment. Depression is, I don't feel like doing it, so I'm not going to do it. It's doing it tomorrow, waiting until next year, making the New Year's resolutions, and nothing happens. It's about taking accountability for yourself and saying, this is exactly what I need to do today and tomorrow, and actually do it. So those are a few beginning components.
Okay. And I thank you for that. I mean, one thing I've attempted to do is, well, because right now I'm unemployed, so I can't afford the gym. So what I do now is I will, every morning, I'll go take a walk to the McDonald's and grab my iced coffees that I need for the day and come back and do that and get a little walk in. Or, like I mentioned to you off camera, I go to Atlantic City once a month. So, I'll go down, and if I'm on the boardwalk, I'll walk the boardwalk a little bit, from one casino to the other, in the amount of time I have set between when I get there and, when the first train leaves the next morning. So, because I usually go late at night when I go, in reference to that. And in reference to church, what I started doing is yesterday, I live in Philadelphia right now. I don't know if you've ever been to Philadelphia and been in Rittenhouse Square, which is right smack dab in the middle of Center City. And there's a church right at the corner. There's a couple churches, but this one church I started going to is right there on the corner of Rittenhouse Square, right by all the buildings and everything. So what I've been doing is when I get done with church, I'll sit on one of the benches and I'll sit there for 2 hours and just feel like I'm meditating, but really just enjoying the scenery and joining, everybody that's around. I mean, like I mentioned about the emotional issue of, if I see couples holding hands. But during that time, believe it or not, Brad, sorry. This is how tired I'm getting, folks. This is how bad my day's getting. Brad, sorry. Normally I would get upset, but during that time, I don't feel it. I mean, I just notice it and just sit there. Mm-hmm. Even though I wish, in the back of my mind, someone came up to me, a beautiful female would come up to me and start talking with me, so on. But I just enjoy just sitting there. and looking up at the sky and thanking God for everything that's going on right now, and bringing that time, and it actually feels good, which amazes me, because I would never want to. Normally, if I go somewhere, like, I will like time to go home, really quick. But now on Sundays, it's like I don't want to go home. I actually don't want to go home. I just want to like sit in the park and just enjoy the time. Now, in the neighborhood too, when I go to take walks to the store or McDonald's or whatever, I love cats. If I see a stray cat and it lets me pet them, it makes my day. It just puts a little boost in me, like you got your day's gonna get better yet, So I let the little, like you said, let the little things, build up. So I mean, that's, like I said, I mean, the only thing I just can't do is the gym, but I have lost weight, so, but and the other thing that I didn't mention in reference to part of the depression as well is when I was in relationships, I was cheated on. So that destroyed the self-esteem as well, because when I was married, even my ex-wife, I can tell her she's beautiful. She'll tell me, no, I'm fat and ugly and all that. And what ended up happening is when we separated, I picked it up. And I started to tell myself that I was fat and ugly. I was like picking up things that, I didn't want to pick up. But in reference to it, like I said, over the past couple of weeks, I don't even need to say it anymore. I might tell somebody I may not be interested. That might be the closest I get in reference to, if I don't feel comfortable yet in reference to it, as much as I really am. But at the same time, the ones that I'm really interested in, are at a distance. So I have to, so I'm building up to, bring that distance closer one way or another. So, and I thank you very much for letting me get this out, because, like I said, it's actually been good to share this stuff. Because I've called it my own therapy now. Like I said, because when I went to a regular psychologist, they're like, well, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And so, like, well, what am I gonna do? You're supposed to help me. You're supposed to guide me. I'm not supposed. I mean, I can't guide if I can't guide myself, why am I here?
Yeah,
but
that's what I'm coming to.
Yeah, and then, like I said, ever since I started this, it's been a much better journey, because I'm starting to see other things about me that are, okay, so I got to see this part, and now I'm going to see this part. So I got to, confront this part. And like I said, and it's really getting to be interesting. And then everything that's going on with this podcast has been a blessing, and it's really boosted my self-esteem a little bit. Bits and pieces. I mean, there's a reason why I go to Atlantic City, but I don't mention it on here, in reference to, being afraid of, the so-called cancel culture, and, being, put to shame for my past, as much as I can't get rid of the past, in reference to one part of it, But like I said, ever since this little journey, and this journey has been about a month now, and it's really, like I said, I'm really starting to enjoy it. I've gotten to the point where I've done 4-mile walks, and I, I was diagnosed with, degenerative, almost like arthritis in the legs, but I managed to do 4 miles, or I'll walk that mile. If I can't do it this way, I'll find an alternative. So, could you give an example of testimony from clients that you had that had maybe a scenario like mine or worse?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've worked with guys who have had severe drug addictions, sex addictions, and helping them integrate that, helping them find meaningful relationships and start to gain their self-worth back, start to integrate their insecurities. And most of us have insecurities as the foundational pillars of our relationships and the relationship with ourselves without us even knowing it. So for one of my the guys I've worked with specifically, we help do that. He's in his 30s. One of my clients in his 20s helped him start to be a little bit more comfortable having conversations with people, initiating them, starting to make more connections, because he's always felt so isolated, and he was in a situation where he always felt bullied. And as soon as he graduated high school, everyone left his life. It was like everyone was fake. It was like nothing mattered. And so that broke down him. And so we've been rebuilding not only the purpose in his life with him being in the military, with him building, being in school and doing all these other things in university, and really building up and helping him become somebody that he's never been before. Someone else who, oh my God, there's so many people. It's hard to single people out. Let's see. One guy in particular who he's in his 40s and he was struggling to make a job transition, not sure about how certain he was about not only the financial reasons, but also location differences and where he's going to go. And he not only was able to make that job transition, but he made a massive life transition in 3 months in us working together. And within that time, he's lost 65 pounds.
Wow.
He has made that job transition. When we first started working together, very anxious, very kind of quiet, a little bit reserved. He's been cheated on over 10 times in his relationships. And really get to the point where,
do I know this person? Because that's almost the exact number on me too, in reference to that,
Yeah, and we dove into that, and healed a bunch of stuff there, and kind of building foundational pillars for his future relationships so that never happens again. And also diving into when we first started working together, he really didn't care if he woke up the next morning or not. Life was that bad. And, it was funny because I talked to him and he was just like, dude, it changed everything. And I wasn't in the place that he was at. I wasn't even expecting him to make that much progress in 3 months, right? I was expecting it to take a little bit longer to integrate all of that, right? But he did it, right? And because everything that I do in the work that I do with my clients is in combination with them putting in the work themselves. And so it's like there's only so many things I can say. There's only so many things I can guide. There's only so many things I can advise, and for us to come up with creative ideas and perspectives to view things and do things. But it's another level of someone actually taking action in their life. So he's been nonstop at taking the action in his life. Same with those other 2 guys that I mentioned, and it shows. It's like when you put the work in, you get the results that you want.
Yeah, and I'm starting to learn that myself. Even like I said, going to church on Sundays, and now with the announcement of possibly this podcast being on radio stations in Chicago and Seattle and so on, and Atlanta, I mean, it's just like that juice is like starting to build. Like the fire is starting to get lit. Like, Joey, get up off your ass and do something now. This is the opportunity you wanted. Go for it. So I'm like I said, I didn't expect it, but I've been thanking a certain person, because one thing I know that you would probably suggest to guys is a strong circle, kind of, a group that, of those that, believe in you and trust you, and I have that, so it's not like when I was younger, when, not feeling accepted. I mean, now I'm feeling the exception, but I'm now feeling the love that I didn't feel back then either. And
hard to receive.
Yeah. So, with this little group of people now, it's really happening. And, I would never thought at the age of 54 that I'm actually seeing light at the end of the tunnel that I would never thought I would ever see, because I was one of those people that wanted to just leave everybody alone. Everybody has their lives, as like I said, when I go down to Atlantic City, but I go at the strangest times too. So I can understand why people can't come down. But if I'm down there for a day or two, you can take an evening, if you really are my friend. And I actually did a podcast where I actually said literally what a friend to me really is. And I literally said this: if you are a friend to me and you really are my friend, you would share this podcast, support this podcast, do what you can to help me, because I will turn around and help you. It's not like I'm not, going to say, no, I'm not doing it because I can't. I'll find a way of, being that support, because that's what a friend does. So I actually literally had to take one person and literally explain how that happens. But the other part that I kind of make a requirement now is physically being there with them. Because, how am I going to know who you really are if I don't see you? As much as you are a distance right now, okay, fine. Now, I mean, there are some, I went to school with, I made that exception because I went to school with them. I saw them. So I'm not going to really get on their case on it, even though there's one I'd like to once in a while. But in reference to others that I'm getting to know, yes, I'd like to see you just so I know who you are. That's it. Once I see the physical person behind the distance and everything, then I'm like, okay, everything goes on, let everything goes on like it is, and whatever happens, happens. Then at that point I can say, okay, thank you for being a friend. If you wind up leaving, or, if you didn't feel comfortable, thank you for at least letting me get to see who you are, then I can, like I said, then I can understand and be, and really just, shave off that requirement. Do you ever have that feeling, like in reference to, like in reference to friends, when, your clients might talk about their friends, like something like what I'm just saying? Have they ever looked at it this way?
I'm not sure exactly what you mean by, when you say physically present, you mean like for the first
Hanging out with
time
them.
that you're.
Yeah.
I mean,
hanging out. At least
yeah.
once.
Well, when you say at least once, I'm a little bit confused on that part. Like, this is someone that you've never met before.
I know them, but I haven't physically met them.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, in that case, I mean, I encourage a lot of people to make friends in real life. In terms of online, like, it can be good if you have if that's, but it needs to be in addition. Like if you're only, my firm perspective is if you're only making friends online, you have a massive problem. You need to have people that live directly near you that you spend time with. You can go out with on Friday night, Saturday night. You don't need to go out every Friday and Saturday night, but you have people that you could go out with. So, I mean, because, I mean, the space that I have online with my clients, I mean, everyone's in a group together. We got guys all over the U.S. and Canada, New Zealand, people all over the world. So there's plenty of different people connected to each other and making friends. But there's people that they have in real life as well. So, I mean, yeah, of course, it's a requirement to hang out with people, but it depends on the stages of life and stuff as well. And people need to understand where they're at and where you're at.
Right.
And so people I used to spend a lot of time with, I spend less time with. Why? Number one, because I have a few businesses that I run, so that takes up a significant amount of time that I'm super passionate about it, and it's helping other people. So that's exceptionally important to me. I also have a relationship partner that I plan on spending the rest of my life with. And everyone goes, oh, once they get a relationship partner, they're spending a little bit less time with you and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's how it's supposed to be, right? This is the person you're spending the rest of your life with. It's supposed to be like that. And now if they drop off the face of the earth and never talk to you again because of the relationship, yes, that's a problem. But also, it depends on your level of connection to people. Because I have a friend specifically who I'm going on vacation in a few days from now with my girlfriend. And my friend who I see once every 6 months, if I'm lucky, maybe once a year, who I feel like I have an incredible soul-to-soul connection with. I don't have to text. Me and him don't text back and forth. We don't hop on the phone. We did once within the last few months, but we don't do that consistently at all. And when I see him once every 6 months or once a year, it's like a blessing being added to my life. It's so awesome. And that's the best friendship, because you don't need to do things to keep it maintained. It just maintains itself because we're so connected.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, if saying someone I knew got a hold of me and said, listen, Joey, I'm going to be in Atlantic City. Come hang out with me. Good. Because in a way, when I go to Atlantic City, I go to play the slots, during those times. So, and then, people start judging, saying, oh, so you're now addicted to slot. You're a gambling addict. This is this. Well, here's my explanation on why. I'm alone. What am I supposed to do? I could, as much as I could walk the boardwalk and, walk the beach or something, I'm alone. If there's someone hanging out with me, then I can say, I don't have to be on the slot machine. I'd rather hang out with that person and do something fun, because it is a more enjoyable thing, to something more in a positive way than sitting on a slot machine. Now, if that person sits on a slot machine with me, then, that's great too. It's not going to damage me, but at least they have something in common with me that, I won't have to get them away from, Now, if it's a different slot machine, I might, because I'm a Mr. Cashman person. So, but that's, my own opinion on those.
I mean, there's a bunch of different, avenues for stuff like this. And what I encourage a lot of guys that I work with to do is go up to random people, introduce yourself, conversation, and you have no idea who you're going to be connected to. You have no idea who you're going to meet. And I've met plenty of cool people as a result of doing that. And it doesn't matter. People it has to be in this specific setting. We have all these social norms. If you're not supposed to go up to someone at this time, disregard all of that and do it anyway. And this is what happens is everybody desires to break the social norms, but nobody does it because it's what we've all been taught and what's comfortable. It's like you go out with a group of people, you're talking to those group of people, and then you can feel confident to talk to other people. It's like the self-development isn't about feeling ready and then doing things. It's about feeling anxious, depressed, uncomfortable, and doing it anyway. That's what gets you out of these things. Right. And that's what builds the character within you to be able to have other people desire to spend the time with you, for you guys to be able to form those deep connections, so on and so forth. And just one thing that I'll add in that, it's just what things that I pick up on is, obviously, like you said, that you're unemployed. So it's like, okay, obviously there's not much income coming in. But also it takes income to go on the slot machines, for example.
Right.
And so it's like, what if you took a little bit of that income and bought a $10 gym membership, right? Just as one example, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like those are the little shifts where it's like, and in like the, it's obviously you're talking about how it's like you're alone and stuff like that, which is completely understandable. And so
Right.
it's like, what are the small steps we need to take to not be alone anymore? And here's the cool thing about the gym. It's not just improving your physical health. Because here, if somebody's in the gym and wants to improve their physical health, what that means is they're probably into like other ways of making their life better too, right? Because it's
Yeah.
just one area. So
Mhm.
chances of you meeting somebody or multiple or tons of people that are focused on self-growth, just like you are, that are focusing on not being alone anymore, that are focusing on real connections, like there's so much potential to meet people there.
Yeah.
Right. And so like that could just be just one shift or piece that could like exceptionally help you. And it's not saying don't go to Atlantic City anymore. Don't do the slot machine. It's not that. Like you can do these things that you find enjoyable.
Yeah.
But also kind of back, just that's just referencing the original point I made of like, hey, what's in my control? And it's like,
Right.
that's something that's in control. And it's like, if you're dedicated enough to overcoming this stuff in your life, it's like, you can be able to do that.
Right. And like I said, right now in reference to wanting to go to the gym, I mean, the one gym that I love the gym I used to go to. PF. So with that, I mean, I owe them a big amount. So that's why I'm like, can't afford to really want to do the gym part because of that. But it's not, like I said, I've been attempting with church, but it's not going to hit in right away. And I understand that. I mean, the closest that's come, which has been interesting, is when it's communion time. I haven't been going up for communion because I don't feel like I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's been so long, I need to rebuild that trust within myself to say, okay, you can do this now. Even though God is like, come have communion. I've had 2 ushers since I started going to church come up and ask me if I was coming up for communion, and I actually, I was like, not at this time. But it felt good for someone to come up to me even to ask that, because it was making me feel good to be in this church. So, like I said, the progress is getting better. I mean, I know, I still have a lot of work that I got to do. It's not like I'm out in the blue yet.
Right.
And in reference to, socializing, there are some times I do, will say hi. I'll compliment people, or in my case, I'll compliment. If I see, like I'll walk up to somebody at McDonald's who is beautiful, has long hair. I'll just say, you're very beautiful, beautiful eyes, beautiful long hair, just to attempt to put a smile extra in their face, and if I can put a smile on that face for it, then I feel good, then it boosts me up. When I was at resorts on Wednesday and Thursday in Atlantic City, and I had a little worry about my credit card. I went up to the front desk and there was this beautiful young lady, and she put my my fears at ease and everything. And I turned around. I was like, "You're truly beautiful," and I just to put that smile on her face made my day. Even though I didn't do anything else during that time. I went right back up to the. Oh no, sorry, I actually did podcasts while I was up there. But nevertheless, it put a smile on my face. And now another thing that I do is there's a song by Kirk Franklin called called Smile. And I have to play that YouTube video just to reassure the smile. to make, keep me in that upbeat mood. So, like I said, I'm learning things left and right as I'm going through this journey. So, so Brad, how can people reach out to you, and how can guys come out to you and say, listen, I saw you on the Life with Joey Calvo podcast, and I have these issues. Maybe you can discuss them with me. How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So best way would be currently through Instagram, which is going to be Mighty Brad Official. And then if you want to check out my YouTube videos, I have extensive videos that are somewhere between 5 and 30 minutes, diving into different self-development concepts, the practicalities of how to really incorporate this stuff into your life, obviously completely for free. That is going to be Mighty Brad on YouTube. And then Instagram and YouTube are definitely the main platforms to be able to, Instagram to actually get in touch with me. And then just to check out my stuff is definitely YouTube is the best option there as well.
Okay. You said on Instagram, Mighty Brad Official?
Correct.
Okay. Give me one moment. And folks, I have it in. Right now I have a GoFundMe page because of equipment like this being outdated, and so it took a little bit to get that up. So definitely on Instagram at Mighty Brad Official, or on YouTube at Mighty Brad. Brad, I thank you for letting me pick your brain, quote unquote, in reference to that. And really, I thank you. The purpose, play, and passion, like right now, like the really, like I said, like you were explaining how each part really needs to come together and work together as one. And I do this. The one person I mentioned earlier in reference to distance and so on actually brought out the childish thing, and I was like, okay, yeah, I still had that attitude, but now realizing that it's part that you need that childish part to really strengthen you. And I appreciate your advice on that. Like I said, the real deep thing that's hurting me more, of course, it's the passion part, because, not having that relationship, with someone special that you can, and in reference to like you said you had a client that was sex crazed. I kind of miss that too, but to each their own. But if that was to happen, I'd probably be hi ho as well, and then I won't feel that pressure within me, like saying, hey, you need to get this before you can't do it anymore, but definitely I thank, like I said, I thank you for this, because it's going to help me with my journey, and seeing that okay, I got to make sure I have a purpose, which it is, and right now this purpose is actually starting to become more to this podcast, because this podcast may start to become a full-time job, which is better, even though, like you said, it's not going to be a 9 to 5 thing. It's going to be like a 12 to 8, or when it comes to answering emails, it could be 24/7, but at least it's something I could probably be, eventually get comfortable to, as compared to going out to a overnight job at Amazon and, loading and unloading trucks like I used to. And, and because of that, I wind up having a meniscus tear in my right knee, which started all this. And then they wind up letting me go because of the attendance. They didn't let me go because of my performance, because they knew I worked my ass off. They knew I did my best. So they never criticized me for that. And if they did, it was like minimal. So, but Brad, you're welcome to come on this podcast anytime. If anything new comes up, where do you see your practice going in 5 years? As a final question.
That's a great question. I have a massive vision for this. I actually just brought on a business partner who I've known him for about 2 years, and he helps men start their businesses. He's a phenomenal coach himself. I do multiple sessions a week with my clients in my group coaching practice. And then he's actually coming on. He's going to be running a weekly call as well. I'm connected to a bunch of other coaches I met through my podcast, as well as doing stuff online for a while.
Yeah. Talk about your podcast. I'm sorry. I didn't even know this.
No, I don't. I actually don't run it like much anymore. I have about a little over 70 episodes produced, but yeah, I mainly do like short form content as well as longer form content on a solo basis now, just because that's been most effective for growing things.
Okay.
But yeah, the Mighty Brad podcast it's on the YouTube channel as well, so you can just see it as a playlist on there. So it's like a subsection part of that. But yeah, we already have people in all over the U.S., East Coast, West Coast, Middle, South, North. We got people everywhere. We got guys in Canada. We got a guy in New Zealand. Got guys in Europe. Like we got guys everywhere already, and we're just expanding more and more. And the goal is to change as many lives as possible and create a real movement here.
Yeah.
Create a shift in society to focus more on addressing not only like mental health and creating a better place for yourself, but like everyone's saying, oh, I want to focus on mental health, but actually the nitty gritty details of what it takes to develop your life to become who you know you can be or wish you were. And our job is to help you get there. And it's a whole community space where all the guys in there are helping each other, right? It's a brotherhood. It's everybody helping each other. So the goal is to make this as big as possible. Like I said, I've already helped over 80 guys, and we're just we're shooting this through the roof.
Oh, that's great, and congratulations on that. And
appreciate that.
In reference to the business part, the business partner that you just brought on. In reference to business, that's one thing I've been working on as well, is starting a casino bus service, because when before we started this podcast a little late, we were discussing, that we're, both in Jersey and everything, both Jersey guys and all that. And I explained to them where I grew up. I was actually a taxi driver after I graduated high school. And so one thing I wanted to start was a taxi company. That was back in 1999. And then that person I was with at the time that encouraged me to do that was one of the first cheaters. Well, not really one of the first, but one of them. And so in reference to that, she encouraged me to get it started, and then I wound up getting married in 2001. And believe it or not, folks, today it would have been 24 years if I was still married. As crazy as it sounds. And I married young, in reference to that. So that person, my ex-wife, was not a big fan of what I was doing, because how, like I mentioned, like when I was in school, not being accepted. Well, I found out in my own marriage, I wasn't feeling accepted or loved, because if anything good I was trying to look at, she was slicing it, saying, nope, not allowed, to the point where I was actually controlled and not realizing it. If I was given $5 for a week, and if I spent that $5, that was it. Because the mentality she put into me was, what's yours is mine, what's mine is mine. And I'm like, okay. Like, I wish I had my own access to it, because I worked on it and so on. And then, she eventually wound up getting her own job after a little bit. But, now, 24 years after that, like within 15 after we separated in 2009/10, I finally got myself to file a divorce, So I've taken that, I got that first stage done, and it was okay. But, now the relationship part, of course, is the hardest part. But I managed through all that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, definitely, like you're saying, the purpose, the play, and the passion, have all eventually got to come together. And for the one person right now that has been really, really supportive, I have so much passion with this person. I mean, really, I could not be so grateful to this person for really being there, even though they're not physically there. So that's like, what I mentioned earlier about the physicalness.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just want to see the person really to really thank them in a way. If at least that, and I'd say that to all the other, people that I know that I went to school with. If I saw, and if they were watching this podcast, if you came to see me, I would be happy to thank you for it. Oh, excuse me a minute, folks. All right, there we go. So definitely go to, my glasses fell. Check out Brad on Instagram at Mighty Brad Official. Check out his YouTube channel. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Guys, if you're in a position I was in, and seeing that therapists really can't help you move forward in your life, and definitely check out Brad, because Brad was a big help to me, and I appreciate that. Like I said, you can count as a half though in reference to it, because I'm not a full client in reference to that. But yeah, I mean the advice that the advice that Brad gave in reference to even me, I mean, it is going to be a help. And again, this thing of purpose, play, and passion, I'm going to start working it in slowly into my quote unquote therapy, because I believe it's going to be a help. And right now, like I said, we've got two parts of the puzzle going. We got a purpose now of this podcast. If I can make a difference now, I'm doing my job, and especially now of it possibly being heard by 28 million people eventually down the line, it's going to be great, because if I could turn around and make a difference to somebody in Atlanta or Chicago or whatever, if I couldn't do it through here, if I could do it on the radio, then I'm really doing my job, and it's really worth it. So Brad, thank you so much for your time. You're like I've said before, you're welcome to come back on. You just let me know. Definitely check Brad out. Reach out to him. His Instagram handle is right there. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching on YouTube, the live stream for the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. God bless you all.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.